So there's a difference when you're a sheep as opposed to when you're a shepherd. When I was a sheep, I was critical of pastors. I wasn't as critical as many, but when I became a pastor, I began to see that a shepherd's perspective is way different than a sheep's perspective. A shepherd's conversation is way different than the conversation of sheep. And what do I mean when I say that? When you have the responsibility of leading God's people, Moses and Aaron's conversation was different than what was going on with the children of Israel. They were critiquing Moses. They were wondering where he was. When he was 40 days up on the mountain praying, receiving God's revelation, and they were down there partying and having fun, worried about food, eating and drinking and rising up to play. And Moses is up there praying. And they're saying, we don't know what happened to this Moses. But Moses is up there praying. When it was time to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt, Moses didn't know what to do. And God says, what is in your hand already? You see, the conversation is different, because what were the children of Israel doing? They were afraid. But Moses is like, no, I had a conversation with God, and God said he's going to part this Red Sea. So the conversation of shepherds is different than the conversation of sheep. One more example, Jethro and Moses. When Jethro came, which is Moses' father-in-law, he came to speak with Moses. He talked to him about dividing the people into sections and appointing judges or rulers over them so that Moses didn't have to have the load of judging everyone's matters. Moses didn't have this conversation with anyone. But Jethro was a shepherd. And so I think he was the priest of Midian. He understood what it took to lead people. And even though he didn't have the large responsibility that Moses had in leading people, he understood what it took to lead people. And he had compassion on Moses, and he gave him wisdom. So shepherd conversation is different. Some things you don't understand until you're in ministry. So when you have a lot of Christians who are very critical of pastors, critical of things that they do. I'm not saying that we always get it right, but one thing I do understand is that when a man is truly serving God, seeking to serve God and lead God's people the right way, the conversations are different and the moves are different. What a sheep might do is going to be from a sheep's perspective. He doesn't have the weight and the burden, the responsibility of people. You see, it's easy for sheep to just say, do this or do that, because they don't have the weight that comes with that. They don't have the burden that comes with that. They haven't been given that responsibility. But when they're at their jobs or in their houses, leaving their families, there's a burden that's associated with that because they are in charge of something. So it's not easy for them to just do anything in what they are doing, what they have responsibility over. So when you have responsibility over God's house, you better move and do things the way that God wants them to be done. So the conversation is different because the burden is different. You can't just say that this person should do this or that or do that, or they should have did it this way or do it that way, because you're not the one that has to answer for it. So for all of you who listen to people that are very critical of pastors, take heed to this, please, because you're going to have to answer for how critical you are. And when you're in position, as God was merciful to me, he put me in position, then I saw, then I understood. And so I want you guys to take this wisdom now, because many of you are called to lead people. And how critical you are today will determine what your tomorrow looks like when you're in ministry. You're going to see. It's not as easy as just making a video and just saying do this or do that, or he should have did that, or she should have did this. No. You have to actually have a relationship with the Lord. You have to actually seek the Lord and what he wants to do in your ministry, in the ministry that he's entrusted to you. So I just leave you with that. Shepherd talk.